Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg here today from the Pixel Perspective, bringing you a video review on the latest entry in the Fire Emblem series that has completely consumed my life as of late, Fire Emblem Fates. Now, one of the neater aspects of this game is that it comes with a choice: Birthright, Conquest, or Revelation. Each choice is essentially its own fully fleshed game, but with very different and connected stories. This video review will be covering all three of those branches of Fate. So, let's first touch upon, without spoilers of course, the game's basic narrative. So, there are two rival nations in the game setting, the very Japanese-influenced peace-loving Hoshido, and the warmongering Dark Kingdom of Nor. The player's avatar, or Corrin by default, is royalty of the Kingdom of Nor, or so they thought. It turns out that they were actually royalty of Hoshido, but kidnapped at a young age by Nor. You following me? Now, if you haven't guessed, these two kingdoms are not only very different, but they just so happen to also be on the brink of war. After some transpiring events, the Avatar is thrust right into the middle of the conflict and forced to side with either Hoshido, Corrin's family by birth, or Nor, the abductors that Corrin has come to love as a family. Defending Hoshido will activate Birthright, and alternatively, fighting with Nor will jumpstart the Conquest version of the game. Of course, a third option is available for Revelation, resulting in Corrin refusing to choose a side. Making this choice is extremely heavy emotionally because the exchanges between the Avatar and the betrayed family will undoubtedly make you feel awful. Along with having unique stories, deciding which version to play ultimately determines the kind of gameplay experience the player will have. Birthright is by far the most friendly to Fire Emblem novices, allowing the player to freely grind for experience and gold. Conquest is significantly more challenging. Maps are simply more difficult, and no grinding is available in this mode, so experience and gold are really scarce. Revelation sort of merges the two. It offers the challenging maps of Conquest, but the lovely ability to grind like in Birthright. Overall, each story has quite a lot to offer the player, but for the full experience, I wholeheartedly recommend playing all three, to experience the full realization of the story and experience the depth of the game's many, many characters. With all that out of the way, let's finally talk about the game itself. Visually speaking, this game is beautiful. The environments are substantially more detailed than in previous entries in the series, and along with that, are extremely varied as well. One chapter you could be fighting in a snow-covered village, and the next navigating through molten lava or a dark, dismal forest. This is only accentuated by the amazing character design. I thought Awakening's character designs were great, but the artists were really at the top of their game here. Specifically, the royal families for each side really stand out. They perfectly encapsulate the feel of their respective nations, and the side characters feel right at home too. I really enjoy the amount of variety in hair color. There are also quite a few 3D rendered cutscenes that are gorgeous to look at, and are always a lovely surprise whenever you encounter them. Gameplay-wise, quite a lot is borrowed from Fire Emblem Awakening. However, most everything is improved upon, which should make fans feel right at home jumping into Fates. One of my favorite improvements is just how quickly the transition into battle is. It's nearly instant now. With that, the 3D fight scenes actually perfectly match the terrain you're standing on, which is a vast improvement to Awakening's static 3D areas. One of the returning features is the avatar creation, which is generally the same, but has a plethora of options to suit the player's preferences. Along with those improvements, the relationship system and the child units from Awakening are back. So now it's one part strategy RPG and one part dating sim. But really, I'm not sure why, I just find this aspect of the game to be extremely enjoyable. Seeing an adorable romance blossom between two unlikely characters is always a fun thing to witness. Plus, if you're playing on classic mode, you don't want to be responsible for getting someone's husband or wife killed, let's face it. The weapon triangle is slightly tweaked, but the core strategy gameplay is essentially the very same. The skill system returns as well, and it's a complex feature that is sure to be welcomed by the hardcore RPG fans. There are some new classes to fit the aesthetic of each nation though, which are mostly renames of former classes, but pretty neat inclusions to the game. Perhaps the biggest new addition though is the My Castle feature. The player is essentially given castle grounds to customize and roam around as they see fit. Adding weapon or stave shops, a daikon farm, or some statues are just the tip of the iceberg here. Along with those, the Avatar gets their own private quarters where they can bond with their S-ranked mate or invite other units to increase their ranking. There are even several options for the castle grounds themselves, my favorite being the Hoshiden version with cherry blossoms aplenty. There's quite a lot to do around the castle. Aside from looking beautiful, it adds a free roaming option that Fire Emblem desperately needed, and it breaks up the gameplay really nicely. There's of course also some amiibo support as well, allowing owners of the Fire Emblem amiibo to challenge and eventually recruit them as playable units. This is not only an awesome callback to former games, but they also bring neat little accessories that you can put on your units, which is a sweet little addition. Now, the 3 individual stories are full-length games, so the meat and potatoes of the Fire Emblem Fates experience can easily last up to 100 hours on its own. If that's not enough, there's a free Before Awakening DLC that I covered on this channel to download, and plenty of paid DLC to keep you coming back. Overall, Fire Emblem Fates is one of the most polished RPGs on the Nintendo 3DS. Its lengthy story, complex mechanics, and high replayability make it far exceed its predecessors. An extremely unique strategy RPG experience. I wholeheartedly recommend all 3 versions of Fire Emblem Fates.